Ladies and gentlemen, fight fans all around the world, we're gonna talk some boxing. Mike Tyson's a genius, man. He's a genius. You know. Oh man, this thing is perfect timing. And on top of that, oh, sorry for I'm in my room. I just checked out Mike Tyson on Tonight Show, Legends Only, um, and man, I'm telling you, man, it's gonna be good. It's gonna be good. Mike Tyson has great ideas. Um, Coming up. It's such a smart, novel idea. And on top of that, of course, his movies coming out. And we've seen him in TV shows. We've seen him in movies. Mike Tyson's been everywhere, and he's been working extremely hard to come back. You know, and that's the thing that a lot of people are not seeing in the background. It's not just by chance that Mike Tyson is blowing up like this. It's his intentional doing and his work ethic and the people in the business that allows him to be where he is. I really hope that this Legends Only succeeds. Of course, he has several other streams of things that he's doing, but I like that he's flying high. He's doing well. I think he paid off the IRS already, so he's making his own money now, and he's making millions. And he's really doing well in the world. I mean, he's working like a beast, though. Um, this fight between him and Roy Jones Jr. The nice thing about exhibition fights, okay, it's not really about winning the fight, even though you can win on unanimous decision or whatever, even a knockout. It's more about just showing. That's why it's an exhibition, showing your skills, right? It's about displaying your skills and showing the world. But he's a winner, anyhow you take it, win, lose, or draw. He's a winner. People are excited for this. This has gone to mainstream media. Mike Tyson was on Tonight Show, so he's hit mainstream. This is a different kind of fight altogether. These exhibitions are gonna. These exhibitions are big. This is a big exhibition. Some people say, well, Mike Tyson's fighting a smaller guy. Why didn't he fight Holyfield? I'm like, come on, man. He faced Holyfield already. There's the what if factor in that whole thing. There's the opponent's a great opponent. Let me tell you, fighter from 1996 all the way up to 2003. Okay, there was some intersperses with Oscar De La Hoya. I think it was Shane Mosley. But for the most part, he was the most dominant fighter of that era. Okay, and we're talking about listen how dominant Roy was. Roy was dominant from 154 all the way up to heavyweight. That's over 200 pounds. Roy, pound for pound, proved. See, this is what pound for pound is. So let me explain. When, all right, this is for fight fans out there because a lot of you guys just don't understand. You see, fight fans, if you're going to say something, you should have some sort of documented proof, especially if you're talking about fantasy fights or pound for pound, etc. So let me show you what I mean by pound for pound and why these guys are on a pound for pound list, okay? The example is Roy Jones Jr. Roy Jones Jr. dominated 160, 168, 175, and over 200 pounds. He never really dominated cruiserweight. So pound for pound, Roy Jones Jr. proved pound for pound. He proved that he was pound for pound, and he proved it by dominating 3 of 5 divisions. Okay, he also won all his fights at 154. So from 154, skip cruiserweight to heavyweight, he proved that he could dominate and be at the top of those divisions. Okay, he didn't prove it for cruiserweight. So when we said that Roy Jones Jr. was pound for pound the number 1 fighter in the world from 1996 to 2003, there's evidence for that. All right. If you're going to say that one fighter is going to beat another fighter in a fantasy matchup, you got to bring evidence, proof, not just reasoning. You got to give proof. So when you guys, like when we're going to do the Floyd Mayweather TBE thing, you got to bring proof. You can't just be talking off the top of your ass. Okay. I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. When Fight Doctor started talking about George Foreman, right? We were talking about guys who dominated the whole entire, uh, the whole dominated boxing in their post prime and finished dominating boxing in their post prime. So they were dominating boxing from the beginning of their post prime to the end of their post prime. They dominate to the end of their career. They dominated boxing. Nobody in the sport of boxing did that. Only Floyd Mayweather. That's what I said. So if you're gonna counter that, you got to bring somebody who in their post prime is dominating boxing, right? And finishes their career dominating boxing. And there's an easy way to find that out. Look for pound for pound lists. Pound for pound lists. And I can tell you for a fact, Rocky Marciano didn't dominate boxing. Well, his post prime, if there was a post prime, which he didn't have. By the way, I was wrong. Rocky Marciano started taking on top tier competition and won his first world title at the age of 26. And he finished his career at the age of 31. So he was nowhere near over his prime. Okay. So anybody telling you that, they full of shit. Okay. Anybody trying to convince you otherwise. Okay. And for the record, Rocky Marciano retired from boxing. Okay. Because he didn't need to face nobody else. Right. He faced all the top tier competition. There was nobody else to face at the top. Everybody else is building their careers and resumes. So I just say that not to disrespect anybody, but just to say anybody trying to even argue that point. It's like they were trying to argue that when Floyd faced Pacquiao, Pacquiao's not greater than when Foreman faced Michael Moore. That is bullshit. This was Michael Moore's first defense. Manny Pacquiao, seasoned world champion, so many championships behind him. You know what I mean? And the knockout by Marcus did absolutely nothing on Manny Pacquiao's career, as we can see. All right, he one of them crazy people. You can knock him out a couple of times. It don't matter. It don't register. He just come back, and he come back hard. But anyway, back to what I was saying. If you want to prove something, you must come with some actual evidence that they can do what they say they can do. So I listened to a lot of people talk about Sugar Ray Leonard was too big, too strong for Floyd Mayweather. Oh, it's too big, too strong for Manny Pacquiao. Bullshit. Too big, too strong for Aaron Pryor. Bullshit. I could cry that easy. Why? Point number one. Let's go with Aaron Pryor first. Sugar Ray Leonard faced Aaron Pryor a number of times in sparring, both in the pros and in the amateurs. And every time he sparred Aaron Pryor gave him the business. Even Sugar Ray Leonard admitted it was good work. Even when he said some days I got the better of him, some days he got the better of me. Whatever. It was good work. He knew, there's many different accounts about it, but at the end of the day, Aaron Pryor was good work. Aaron Pryor was a smaller guy than Sugar Ray Leonard. Sugar Leonard will personally tell you, you knock down Aaron Pryor, because he did knock down Aaron Pryor. Aaron Pryor will get back up and come back with more fury. And he might just start to overwhelm you and dominate you. Okay, that was Aaron Pryor. It's a beast. Okay, Manny Pacquiao's the same way. You drop Pacquiao just gonna come back with more fury. Right? Remember why Manuel Marquez fight? Marquez dropped Pacquiao. Pacquiao came back to drop Marquez. All right? And was coming in for the kill when he got killed. Okay? So, and it was a close fight. It was all Pacquiao Marquez fights. They're always close because Marquez got Pacquiao's number and Manny Pacquiao just compliments Marquez. They both got each other's number. It's like that. And no matter how many times they fight each other, it's always going to be close. Okay? So that's just what that is. But that's what makes Pacquiao great. I mean, it's the Pacquiao Marquez trilogy, quadrilogy. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. If they fight 5 times, it's a 50-50 fight. If they fight 6 times, it's a 50-50 fight. If they fight 7 times, it's a 50-50 fight. If they fight 8 times, it's a 50-50 fight. That's how it go with them two. All right? That's how it goes with those two. All right? Great trilogy, great wars. Um, but my point anyway is talking pound for pound. So Mike Tyson is brilliant. Let me tell you why he's brilliant. He's brilliant because he faced a guy that was pound for pound, has proven he could dominate heavyweight. He could dominate light heavyweight. He could dominate super middleweight. He could dominate middleweight. He proved this because he was pound for pound from 1996 to 2003. Mike Tyson was pound for pound in 1989. He dominated the heavyweight division in 1989. Dominated it. So one of the most ferocious, dominant heavyweights decides to pit himself against a guy who they were supposed to face each other after the John Ruiz fight. But instead, when Antonio Tarver called out Roy said, "Hold on a minute, Mike Tyson," and went down to light heavyweight just to prove that he could beat Antonio Tarver, who had beat him in the amateurs. And he beat him, but it wasn't satisfactory enough. So he said, "I'm going to do it again." And he ran it back. And this time Tarver knocked him out. All right. And that kind of foiled everything. But Roy was a bad boy. So Mike Tyson facing Roy Jones Jr. is a good fight. It's a good fight. Now, like Roy said, his knees ain't what they used to be, but they're going to have to be something. He's going to have to get them knees in order. You know, get some chiropractic therapy and maybe some stem cell therapy. You should start trying to do some of that because that's what Mike Tyson used to get a little bit more younger. UFC fighters use it all the time. I wouldn't be surprised boxers use it too, to get quick repair and restoration of your bones and your joints. You know, so if Roy can get that under control, get his weight under control, get an ideal weight, he can move around a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? Now, not always does the stem therapies work, but I saw Roy in the chiropractor at the Bohai Tower, so I know that Roy also be doing some chiropractic therapy on himself, so that's good. With all those things, I think Roy should be in enough shape to handle Mike Tyson if he has to. So I'm not even worried about these two guys. Like, this is an exhibition, okay? It is about showcasing your skills mostly. If you can get a knockout, you get your knockout. But what people need to understand is, you know, I heard Mike Tyson's actually sparring and shit. So, but what people need to understand is these are not young guys. All right, I want you guys to understand this. So when you see them, it's just like Julio Cesar Chavez and Jorge Arce. They're not young. Okay, they're gonna surprise you. They're gonna shock you if you think, oh, these are gonna be two older guys. They're not gonna be quick and sharp as when they were young. So once you get that in your skull, now they're gonna blow your mind like crazy. Okay, because remember, if you ever watch boxing, the younger bloods right now, they so fucking sharp. Wilder, Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, they on a whole other level. I would not advise Mike Tyson to step in the ring with one of those guys. Just not. They're a different breed. Their mindset is different. He's not going to intimidate him, okay? And them boys, they can hit, and they can hit very, very hard because they're super, what we call super welterweights. They're 6'6" and up. Okay, these boys ain't no small guys. If Andy Ruiz, who's 6'2", is considered a small heavyweight, these aren't your normal heavyweights. Okay, so anyway, my point being, once you can keep your nostalgia and stuff, because it's going to be a very exciting fight. I guarantee you it's going to be an exciting fight. The problem is, a lot of y'all thinking this is some 20-something-year-old Tyson. This is not 20-something-year-old Tyson. No matter what you think, he's not. And he realizes the training is tough, and the training would be tough, especially if you injure yourself and you have to rejuvenate yourself. I don't care how much gene therapy, how much stem cell therapy you've done, you know, it's still going to take a toll on your body because your body's been around for a while. And so Mike Tyson's coming back from rest, building himself up for this fight. I can't wait to see the fight. It's September 12th, I believe. But if Canelo faces Callum Smith on September 12th, if both fights are playing at the same time, I'm gonna put Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. on replay. I can always pay for it on pay-per-view or something and watch it on replay. I'm watching the Canelo versus Callum Smith fight first. I'm sorry. It's just the way how it goes. I want to see my professional boxing first, and then I'll turn back and enjoy that fight because those two guys have done it already. They built their legacies. They built their careers. Canelo's building a legacy, building a career. And I would love to see the challenge he has against Callum Smith, who's a very long, very rangy, very strong fighter. So hopefully that fight can come off. If Canelo's facing anybody less than Callum Smith, I'm not interested. And I will watch the Mike Tyson versus Roy Jones Jr. because that's going to be a much more competitive fight in which we don't really know what will happen. It's like a 50-50 fight. We don't really know what will happen. We don't know what Mike Tyson is going to see. We don't know what capacity Roy Jones Jr. is in now. And Roy's the one that doesn't look so great. Mike Tyson looks spectacular, but it might be the other way around in the ring. We just don't know what to expect. So I'm looking forward to that fight because it seems like a competitive fight on paper. And it seems like a fight in which both fighters have shortcomings. So it could be an interesting matchup. You know what I'm saying? But Mike Tyson's a genius, man. And I hope Legend only thrives and does exceedingly well because those kinds of matchups is what we want to see in boxing today. We don't want to see, we don't want to see nothing that don't, like the Steve Fulton versus Angelo Leo. I wanted to see that fight so bad because, well, I knew Steve Fulton was going to win, but I wanted to see it, The other fighter that everybody's talking about now, I don't really care about him. Stephen Fulton, which comes to another topic I want to just touch on, which is that I believe they are getting, in fact, I know for a fact they're getting false positives. Guys are being positively tested for COVID-19. And in the case of Jamal Herring, we now find out that Jamal Herring tested, he had 2 false positives for COVID-19. He had showed no symptoms, and they did the first test. He was found to have COVID-19. They waited the second week after everything. They tested him again, and he proved to have COVID-19 again. And Jamal Herring was like, something's wrong with this. Do another test on me. And they did a third test on him, and the third test showed that he was actually COVID-19 negative. All right, I feel the same thing has happened to Stephen Fulton. I believe Stephen Fulton, because he took too many precautions. He's not going out. He's just in the gym. He's running the road. There's no fucking way him and his coach are COVID-19 positive. There's no fucking way. I could say this definitively. All right. And just to see the case with Jamal Herring where he was not able to defend his championship fight because the date was gone already. The same thing I think is happening with Stephen Fulton. And I was talking to a guy in a group and he was saying lots of athletes are coming up positive for COVID-19. They're not showing any symptoms. I said that's fucking bullshit then, because they don't have it. If they don't have the fucking symptoms, nobody in their family has COVID-19, just them. Then what the fuck is going on? If their family doesn't have COVID, you should check the whole family and friends just to see if they had COVID. If your family don't have COVID-19 and you had COVID-19 for a couple of weeks straight, because in the case of Jamal Herring, he was tested twice, over a period of time, and he still had COVID-19. His family don't have COVID-19. Your friends don't have COVID-19. Nobody's showing symptoms. What the fuck is going on? You're testing false positive. Let me tell you why false positives happen with these tests. Whether it's PCR tests or RT-PCR, or if it's immunoassay. I'm gonna tell you why. One, the RT-PCR does not discriminate between the different coronaviruses. So you can have DNA of other viruses that or other things in your body. Even it could be the reverse transcriptase RNA of an organelle. Take for instance mitochondria, for example, which has RNA in it, and so you're getting this genetic material showing up on your reverse transcriptase test, PCR test, and you're saying it's COVID-19 when it's not COVID-19. Then you have, and especially in populations where they have low COVID-19 incidences, particularly then do you get false positives. So if there's, for instance, surveying a whole set of boxers who coming up negative, one of those guys in there is going to be determined false positive. So this is what these people need to do with more stringent measures. They need to use a series of tests. And then I think it was the FDA came out just very recently. I was talking about the RT-PCR tests, and that they were coming up with a lot of false positives, and that the degree of error was too big, you know. And so these are the kinds of problems that we're having with these testing. Uh, I don't really have a problem with a test that is doing false positives per se, but you should be coupling that test with another test. That's how you get foolproof results. All right. So how you do it is you test the patient. If he comes up false positive, okay, or he comes up positive, you do a secondary test, maybe an immunoassay to see if it's in his blood. And if you're not getting antibodies or antigens to the said coronavirus that you're supposed to be looking for. The other thing is, I think that, see, you got to have identifiers. So just doing, for instance, a sequencing of the virus's RNA is not enough. And I think a lot of people just don't understand that. It's the conformational sequencing that's more important. So you may have X, Y, and Z, regions, genetic regions on the virus or genes on the RNA, which are sequenced a certain way, but in conformation they look different. You see, and this is from a medical point. A series of viruses, so you can't just look for a generic area on the virus. You have to be able to know the three-dimensional structure. Compare that to the gene, not just the sequencing pool of viruses. And this is what they do. They map out. So they look at the DNA of the coronavirus, the corona SARS-2 virus specifically, which has different mutations, and they try to find identifying sequences that are unique to that virus. All right, so probably 97% of that virus is similar to other coronaviruses. And in this 3% area is what they would look at as discriminator. But the problem with that is that 3% area may have a certain conformation that makes it different to the other coronaviruses, not just the sequencing. And so what can happen is, even though you're surveying the data banks show one thing, the common code, because it has so many different mutations, may have a similar sequencing, but not three-dimensional conformation sequencing. So what happens is you end up with, I don't know if you guys even understand what I'm saying, but it is what it is. So that what in the end happens is that you're saying that you're diagnosing a virus when you diagnose the person has something else in their system. It might even be a virus, right? Because we also have reverse transcriptase RNA in our system, okay? And we get rid and dispose of these things through organelles, particular organelles known as, I forgot what the name of it is, but these little things that release these, the RNA and stuff, or any kind of, anything that it gets removed into the blood plasma, into the intracellular fluid, and then into the blood plasma or into the lymph, and then out the body, okay? And so your genetic material, or certain genetic material, can be disposed that way. All right. And we all know that your body has a certain colony of viruses and bacteria, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it's one of those things where, and I don't want to even go into what everybody's calling it, the coronavirus, or the corona, the corona SARS disease. But listen, we don't know what this disease is really caused by. It could be the problem could be, as we said, blood clotting because of bacteria and stuff. We don't know what really causes death. All right, because there are different studies out there doing different things. My point is this anyway. At the end of the day, these boxers are coming up with false positives, and we saw it in the case of Jarrell Miller. What the fuck I'm talking about? I mean, shit. You guys know who I'm talking about. Not Jarrell Miller. What the fuck I'm talking about? Jarrell Miller's. He's the PEDs dude. Jamal Herring. Okay, in the case of Jamal Herring, he came up false positive. Okay, he was perfectly healthy. And I do believe Steve Fulton and his coach are probably also false positive. And that's the thing about boxing. I don't know what is going on. And even the FDA talked about contamination. How the fuck you can get your samples contaminated by virus? So you know, like I said before, I think it's fishy. I talked about this at length, and it's just something I wanted to talk about in addition to the Mike Tyson fighting Roy Jones Jr. fight, which I think is brilliant. The fact that mainstream media has picked this up, has been running with it, and also we had, of course, numerous boxing outlets from Max Kellerman from ESPN taking on it, and Mike Tyson getting different interviews and Roy Jones Jr. getting different injuries. It's going to be a fight. These guys are going to fight one another for sure. It's not going to be no play boxing. It's not going to be just having nice pally-wally time. That ain't going to happen in that ring. But what I can tell you is that a lot of safety precautions are already put in place for these guys. You don't have to worry about them getting hurt. Even if somebody gets starched and knocked out, it doesn't really matter because at the end of the day, they're boxers. They're used to that. Okay. I know, there's so many stories about boxers who suffered brain damage and died. I can think of one right now off the top of my head. A boxer named, he lived, I think, 9 years after. Oh, yeah. In a group, we're talking about Craig Page. Craig Page, was the boxer that dropped Mike Tyson before the Buster Douglas fight in sparring. But he, after his career was over, he lived like 6 years, I think, an extra 6 years, and then he died of damages due to boxing. So it's a very dangerous sport, and especially if you're older, it could be more painful. But again, all of those precautions will be put in place with Roy Jones. They're professionals, and Mike Tyson. They understand the dangers of what they're going to do in that ring. So don't really fear and don't be afraid for Mike Tyson or Roy Jones Jr. They know what they're doing, and Roy's going to really prepare himself for this fight because this is the fight that he always wanted, and so he's going to be highly motivated for it. He's going to get himself as trained as possible, as properly trained as possible with whatever injuries or problems he has with his body. So don't worry about that. Now, don't expect a young prime Roy and don't expect a young prime Tyson. That's where a lot of people are going wrong. Tyson's going to be doing well, but he's not going to do as well as what you saw on the pads, okay? And neither is Roy going to be shown, the Roy Jones Jr. of old. But they are smart guys. They have a lot of experience, and they will use what they have to excite you, and it will be an exciting fight, all right? So once again, let me just repeat. You're not going to see Mike Tyson from the 1980s. He's not going to show up there. He's going to look incredible still, I think, but not that guy. So you got to dial down your expectations, otherwise you're going to be disappointed. Think of an old guy. He's 54 years old. An old guy. He's an old guy. Been around, done that. But he's smart, he's crafty, he's wildy, and he's going to be looking explosive, and he's going to pace himself, and the fight is going to be exciting in spots. All right? It's not going to be exciting all the way through. Okay? So once you can think of it that way, it's going to be a fun fight. Okay? It's going to be a fun fight. And they should put on a hell of a performance. They should put on a hell of a performance. So we'll see. All right, that's it. What you need. It's my channel. If you guys like what you're seeing, don't forget you can donate, subscribe, share, and comment. You can donate via Western Union. Thanks for your time. Peace.